For social studies today, our objectives are: understand that the levels of government can help you prepare to be an active citizen, and to identify the role of citizens in their government and the importance of exercising our rights and responsibilities in our democracy. Let's jump into our social studies textbook. Our essential question is: how does the structure of our government work? Follow along as I read. Our Constitution. Today, the United States is home to more than 300 million people. There are differences among the nation's people and the 50 states in which they live. However, they are all united under the same government and its laws. The United States is a representative democracy, or a government that is run by its people. Boys and girls, I thought that our country was run by a president. How is it that it's really run by its people or its citizens? Pause right here to think about that. Oh, that's right. It's run by its people because we vote and elect our president and other representatives in Congress and in Senate, and even in our local government of Mullica Township and in our state government of New Jersey. Wonderful job. Let's keep reading. President Abraham Lincoln described our government as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That means our government leaders are United States citizens who are elected to serve the people of our country. From the time the country first gained its independence, the founders made sure that people would have a say in how the government was run. The country was created as a nation of states. In the 1770s, the states held most of the power in government. As the time passed, many leaders believed the national or federal government needed to be stronger and have more power. So the leaders from the states met to discuss the structure and powers of the government in 1787. Together, they created the United States Constitution. It was a document that outlined how the government would be organized. It explained what powers the state and federal governments would have. The Constitution gave the federal government more power than it had before. It became the law of the nation when it was ratified, or officially approved, by the states in 1788. Let's stop and analyze. Why is it important that the people have a say in their government? Pause right here to think about that. Well, it's important that people have a say in their government because this gives people power in the government. Leaders who are elected by the people must work for their approval. And this helps keep leaders from abusing their powers or doing things that they should not be doing. Now let's evaluate. Do you think the name United States accurately described the country when it was first created? Why or why not? Pause right here. Well, even though the states are different, they all stand together under one government, outlined in our Constitution. In the beginning, this was not true. So the founders created a nation of states that were not very united in the beginning. Thankfully, over time, the states did become united under our Constitution. Let's think back to what Abraham Lincoln said. He described our government as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. How does this reflect the ideals of democracy, meaning a government that's run by its people? Pause right here to think about that. Well, if we think about what democracy means, it is a government that's run by its people. And a U.S. citizen is elected by other or fellow U.S. citizens to represent them. So in this way, it reflects a government of the people, which is our president being a United States citizen, by the people, meaning the citizens voted on and elected the president, for the people, meaning the president serves the people of his country. Great job summarizing. Let's keep on reading. Government power. The Constitution divides the power of the federal government between the legislative, judicial, and executive branches. The powers are separated to make sure one part of the government does not become too powerful. It also allows for the levels of government beyond the federal level. Before I go any further, let me draw your attention to the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branches, which form our federal government. The legislative branch is the one that makes laws. The judicial branch is the one that interprets laws or awards consequences for citizens who break the laws. And finally, the executive branch is the one that carries out the laws. Let's keep reading. In the United States, the state and local governments have shared responsibilities with the federal government. They also have some duties and powers independent of the federal government or separated from the federal government. The Constitution makes sure that the rights of the people will always be protected by promoting justice and liberty. Levels of government. In the United States, there are 3 levels of government: federal, state, and local. Let's think about this for just a second. Local governments refer to your towns and mayors, like Mullica Township. State government refers to your entire state and governors, like New Jersey. And federal government refers to our entire nation, the United States of America, and our president. Back to the text. The Constitution gives some powers to the federal government that relate to issues that affect the whole country. For example, the federal government has the power to declare war and create and maintain a military. It has the power to print money. Now, why wouldn't a state government or a local government be able to declare war on another country? Pause right here to think about that. Well, that's right. I mean, declaring war affects the entire country, not just one state or one town. That's why the federal government has that power, and state and local governments do not. Let's keep reading. The Constitution does not list the powers of the state governments as it does for the federal government. However, these powers are explained in the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. An amendment is an official change to the Constitution. The 10th Amendment says, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people." This is just saying that the states have the ability to create their own laws. So what is the importance of the 10th Amendment to the Constitution? Pause right here to think about that. Great understanding. It establishes the difference between the power of the federal government and the power of the state governments. Let's keep reading. States have certain powers to serve the people in their own states and to deal with the state issues. For example, states hold elections for state leaders. They provide for the public health and safety of the people of the state. State governments also have their own constitutions. Many state constitutions are modeled after the United States Constitution. One thing to note here is that states have powers to serve the people in their own states. People in New Jersey have different needs than people in, let's say, California, or Kansas, or even New York. So having our own constitution and our own set of laws allow us to meet our own needs. Thinking back to the federal government laws, do you think that the power to print money would be listed in the New Jersey state constitution? Pause right here and think about that. You are correct. As we've learned earlier, the power to print money is a right of the federal government, not of the state governments. What might happen if each state could print its own money? Pause right here to think about that. That's right. If each state was able to print their own money, it would make trading and buying and selling things across state lines very difficult. It would be hard to go shopping in Delaware or Pennsylvania for us. People would have to exchange money if they traveled or moved to a different state as well. Wonderful job. In addition to the federal and state governments, there are local governments. Each state organizes their local governments and decides which powers to give them. Local governments may include cities, villages, counties, parishes, and townships. Their purpose is to provide governmental services at a local level. Each local government body has a code which lists the laws and ordinances of the municipality. This is similar to a constitution. The three levels of government allow our country to serve the needs of its people. The nation's 50 states are not exactly the same, so each state government is able to address the unique needs of its state. Each local government has powers to meet the specific needs of the people in its community. So let's think of this. Why are there different levels of government? Use text evidence to support your answer as you think. Pause right here. I'm sure that you've thought that each level of government meets the needs of the people in the country, for the federal government, in the state, for the state government, and in the local community, for the local government. People in Mullica might have very different needs than people in Glassboro, so local governments help meet those needs. Just like people in New Jersey might have different needs than people in New York, which is why our state governments meet our needs. And finally, we have needs as an entire nation, as all U.S. citizens, which the federal government addresses. Let's take a look at our stop and check question. How does the Constitution divide power between the federal and state governments? Do you think it makes sense to separate the government powers like this? Why or why not? Pause here to think about this. Great job. The Constitution lists the powers that are specifically given to the federal government, meaning the whole entire nation, or the government that runs the whole entire nation. And all powers that are not given to the federal government are given to the states. And we know that because it's written in the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. The states can then make laws to meet the needs of the citizens within its states. Now, whether or not you think it makes sense is up to you. I think it makes sense because it allows one form of government to not have too much power, and it also allows the needs of all American citizens to be met. Boys and girls, I am going to show you your activity on Google Slides. I will keep the text in the slides for you so that you can refer back to it easily. You have 3 activities to do. The first is a drag and drop activity. Your question is, what is government? You'll pick one of these green boxes to drag and drop. The second is, why are governments necessary? Pick a green box to drag and drop. And your final question is, what are the 3 levels of government? Pick the correct answer in the green box, drag and drop. Once you're done doing that, you can take a look at the responsibilities. You will sort the responsibilities into the correct level. Responsibilities are things that each level have to do. Let's think of the local level, or our local government. What are they responsible for? Click some blue boxes and click and drag. Then think about the state level. What are some responsibilities that the state government has to handle? And finally, let's think of the national level. What responsibilities does our federal government have to meet the needs of all U.S. citizens? Again, you are dragging the blue boxes into the correct category. Your final activity is an image search. You can use the Google image search located in the toolbar to find real-life pictures of each of the following: our country, our state, and our city. Have fun, boys and girls!